know me. I am Cynthia Sampson, Chair of the Finance Committee meeting. If there are any members of the public here, they will have opportunity to broach any question, but only those that are on the agenda. Councillors, are there anybody here that has any conflict of interest?
None.
None, Chair.
No.
I'm alive.
Oh,
Nothing to do with me.
Brilliant, I'm glad you did.
Traffic.
You've missed nothing. Just starting.
Have I missed nothing?
Nothing at all. Just starting.
Where am I?
Have you got
No good
any,
question.
This one.
Councillor Fogarty, have you got any conflict of interest that can't be discussed online?
No.
Thank you. So we haven't, there's no apologies then?
No, there's no apologies, no.
Sorry. I did leave 15 minutes of the meeting.
So the declaration of interest, nobody's got any?
No.
Thank you. 25013 is the open forum, and comments and questions are relating to items on this agenda only. Matters in which the Chair's view require debate or discussion will be referred to the next committee council meeting as appropriate. The public forum is restricted to 15 minutes unless the Chair allows otherwise. Are there any comments from the public? Or the committee members?
I was going to suggest, Chair, that if members of the public wanted to comment, that could be included in the actual agenda item.
Fine.
Well, that's just easier, isn't
Yeah,
it?
okay.
A supplementary suggestion is that maybe that agenda item should be moved right to the beginning so that the member of the public can escape as a reasonable time of the evening.
Well, we'd have to do the apologies first.
Oh, yes, yes,
And
yes.
then the declaration of interest, and then it could come after that.
Yes.
Yes. So, what is your comment that you want added to the next? The agenda, you want it changed to say?
Just to advance, which item is it? Item 11 to the front of the agenda. Now where's an appropriate point?
So Hannah comes first.
Probably, yes, immediately after item 6.
Okay. No, we'll move it. Did you understand?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Are there any other comments from the open forum, from councillors or members of the public? No? So we'll move on. 25014 to agree and sign the minutes of the HTC Finance Committee meeting held on the 8th of October 2024. Are there any comments from any councillors regarding those minutes?
No.
None, Chair.
No.
And I have a proposal to accept them. Councillor Fogarty, seconded Councillor Susan Moore. All in favour? Unanimous vote. Thank you. 25015 to elect a vice chair to the HTC Finance Committee. Looking round, councillors all have some responsibilities, but I noted that Councillor Fogarty didn't, and I know that she's very good with finance, and I'd like to ask her, would she consider being elected as the vice chair to
Yes,
this?
fine, whatever.
So I'm proposing that.
I'll second that.
All those in favour? Unanimous.
Wonderful. Oh, well, don't you, don't you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. 25016, recommendations for expenditure. Comments, please.
Yes, could we please authorise expenditure on a grit bin, £132.
£2.99.
£2.99 outside St Ben's.
Plus any postage down there.
Can I have one outside my house, please?
Kind of,
No,
no, you like shake, haven't you?
eh? I think the station needs one as well.
We've got one at the station, but it's never used.
Well, I'll say my bit when we get to the main meeting then.
ISS Gritty,
Yeah.
they're the station facilities
Well, they
people.
didn't.
They did, but they used the wrong kind of salt.
Well, Saturday, it
I'm not
was...
even lying.
Wait until we come to the main meeting, because then I'll say the bit.
There's
Well, I'm just saying, all the trains for the first time over the Christmas period were running properly on Saturday, right? So there was 3 an hour. But those steps, I went home
Oh, did you? Right.
because they were absolutely lethal.
Yeah.
And if you were trying to get, never mind going down them, getting up was even more impossible in the dark.
Yeah.
And I did have quite a few people who said, you know,
Roll on the lifts.
well, it's not even the lifts, it's just the fact that, you know, they should have been gritted.
Should have been.
There is a grid bin outside the station.
Yeah,
Has,
well, the guy was
the
inside
dogs
reading his
just
book,
there.
but it's not his job,
It's what?
not his job to grit the stairs.
Well, the problem with gritting is,
If we
if
take on
you
that
grit,
responsibility,
if you are responsible.
Yeah, and I get
And
that.
that's
But then
why
the
a lot of people
station-
don't do it.
The station should have been closed and a different way put onto the platforms,
I don't
Because-
disagree with you.
you
There is
know.
a grit bin on each of the platforms,
Yeah.
and they're not used.
well,
You know, it's not the platforms, it's the steps to it.
yeah.
And I mean, if
And
the
there's a
schools,
grid bin at the top.
if the schools had been open on Friday,
Mhm.
they would have lost probably half a dozen kids falling down the stairs, so.
Right, can we ask that us as councillors write to Network Rail to find out who is responsible? Because it's there,
And
and
we write to them.
We know who's responsible, ISS facilities.
I accept.
So we write to them.
Do we have an address?
Yeah, probably.
Right, give it to me then, all right.
Yeah,
All right,
yeah.
all right.
Thank you.
Can we return to the agenda item?
Yes,
Which was the grit bin.
Yes, we've agreed it.
We haven't voted on it yet.
No, he was going to give us the price. And
132.99, but I'm going to put
Where's this for?
delivery and VAT.
Just for the school?
Yeah,
Yeah, all right, yeah.
I'll propose it.
I'll second it. All those in favour?
You just got to do the grit to put in it then.
We've got the grid, just saying to Roger it'd be easy to
So
have it
then-
there, and
Yeah.
then to trace it with the wheelbarrow down.
Yeah.
Especially, I was saying to, Wendy that our grid people didn't turn up because it was too slippery, so we were all out.
Well, we stopped employing them because of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, our caretaker does it now, but not that he's happy about it, but we would trust any case, so.
Councillors, 250111 is to review a recommendation for a council grant to St Benedict's. Can I recommend that we bring it forward, please?
Oh, I thought
Yeah.
had we not already done that?
No, we're doing it now.
We're doing it now.
Right.
Okay, all those in favour of it being brought forward? And there is one comment I'd like to make before we actually discuss the application. We've already given a grant application to the Grange, and I wouldn't want the St Benedict's to be treated any differently, because I don't want, well, they gave so-and-so and they didn't give it to us. So I would like the same amount that we gave to the Grange to be available to St Benedict's. That's before we discuss this item. So can I have a proposal to accept mine?
Can you just clarify what the amount would be, please, councillor?
£2,000.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, could I add to that, because as a committee of grant liaison officers, which includes Councillor Chapman, And I wrote to the Committee of Grant Liaison Officers requesting that HTC give a grant of 2,000 to Handforth Grange, pointing out that HTC a short while ago had given a grant of 2,000 to Handforth Grange School for the purchase of equipment by SEN, for the use of SEN children. And I'm pleased to say that the Grange subsequently won a prestigious award for the education of children with special needs. And I added I would allow, very much like the Grant Liaison Committee, to commend to HTC that the sum of £2,000 be awarded to St Benedict's to support their development of a room for children with special educational needs. I got a reply which was unanimous from the Grant Liaison Committee that that's exactly what we should do.
Yeah, but we still have to discuss it
We
at
do.
this committee meeting.
We
But
do.
Thank you for that, Councillor.
I see absolutely no reason why you wouldn't give exactly the same to one place to another, so I fully support that.
The thing is, St Benedict's didn't know that we'd already given that amount of money to the Grange. They were just asking for an amount of money to suffice what they want to purchase. But in fairness, I don't want schools to be undermined by us treating one school differently to another. Councillor Fogarty.
Having seen, obviously, the room in action at Handforth Grange, it's based within the Rainbow Room, which is our provision, which St Benedict's don't have that provision. But the increase in children coming into mainstream with specific SEN needs is growing. It grows phenomenally each year. And each year we don't know the children that are coming in with special needs because one, the parents don't declare it, and two, it's not until we see the children we're aware of it. So a room like that is vital, but it's not also for special needs children. For the children who suffer with anxiety or grief or problems at home that they just want to escape from, these rooms are vital. Just putting a child who suddenly cries on you in this room for 10 minutes, they come out relaxed, they'll talk to you, they'll tell you what the problem is, and you can solve it. So yes, I agree that it's Hannah's turn to get it, and wish her all the best with it, because it actually, in the money you put into it, it saves you a vast amount of money in the long run.
Thank you, Councillor Fogarty. Before we do a vote on it, would you like to comment on anything?
I mean, I think Wendy's just done a great job. It's exactly what I would have said, really. We don't officially have a resource provision as the Grange do. We do have an unofficial alternative provision for the unsport 12 children in there at the moment. So they are mainstream children with a plan. Two of them are have been awarded places at special schools, but nobody can meet their needs. So we are supporting them, and they do just from time to time become very overwhelmed. So we are a small school. We don't have a space or room for them. So I don't know if any of you have ever visited St Benedict's, but it's a corridor area that we're supporting them in, and they're thriving, they're doing a great job. But sometimes when other children are moving around that space, they just need a breakout area. And when it's absolutely right, that it isn't just the children in the special needs unit that need that space. One of our pupils recently was really struggling to come into school, couldn't really explain why. And we have a school dog, a therapy dog, and he would spend time with the therapy dog, and that was great at first. But then he said, it's still, where I'm sitting with the dog, it's still too noisy. So now he goes to sit in a little room we've set aside with the dog, and it's great. And he's now comes into school 5 minutes before he goes into the rest of the school, which is great. The room is awful, and you feel like it's like cold bits, it's literally a PE mat on the floor, so it's not a very nice place. And it's great if they're dysregulated because there's nothing to stimulate. it doesn't look very nice when you say to parents, so this is where your child will spend 10 minutes in the morning. So, you know, it'd be really appreciated, and don't buy some of the extra bits that we didn't be able to get, so.
Am I correct?
Before we move on, we wanted to.
Am I correct in thinking that if the council were to give you a grant of £2,000, that would allow you to buy all the items that you've listed and give you perhaps a little bit towards improving lighting or supplying lighting?
Absolutely, and Roger asked me earlier about lighting, and I haven't yet had a quote that the electrician produced from last week to tell us what they could do with lighting, but snow stopped that. So yes, we would do that. We would look at some different sensory boxes and some equipment to put in there as well, which would be invaluable, as well as the structure of the room. So are people online? Are these are they online? No, it's just people in the room.
No, we're online.
Right. There is one particular job that we're supporting at the moment that this will have a real benefit to, more than any of the others that would be great to explain to you, but I won't do it. But yes.
Well, obviously, if the councillor are in agreement before we move on.
Yeah, can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Is it because of, the pressure is on you more now, on both schools more now? Is that because there aren't special places available for these children? So they're now, is it a policy that they are brought into mainstream school?
I wouldn't imagine it's an official policy, so I don't think they'd be able to do that. I just think that the criteria are definitely different. And I think there's lots of issues. I think part of the problem is that the council are being inundated by applications for places. The people who are reading those applications sometimes have 60 things to read before they know, they can't read all the details, and they're having to make these snap judgments without having everything to hand they need. There are definitely children coming through to us into reception classes who are coming with very high levels of need, but with no plans attached to them. For various reasons, sometimes they've not been in a setting before, so nobody's identified the need. And so there's a number of reasons why that might be happening. And then obviously they've built Springfield, which is a great provision. They're full already. One of the children, the council said that we can have a place at special school. The child does need a special school. But Springfield, when I spoke to the head there, had 100 applications for all places. She said to me, I haven't even had time to read the new applications coming to me before the deadline to respond to some of the others has gone. So it's a crisis. Because we set up, it's 4 years old now, the provision that we set up, and because of that, there are children that remained in the mainstream school that in other places or under our previous way of working would have needed to go to a special school. And we have managed that. They will leave us and go to special school, not mainstream high school. We have managed to adapt the way we teach them in school to make sure that we can meet their needs. So schools do have to think outside the box now, but it does bring such richness to our school environment. The children that we are supporting are an absolute delight. And yeah, they need a lot more support than the other children and a lot more resources. But our mainstream children are gaining a lot from being around the children who've got these needs. So there are some positives to it as well.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So the recommendation is that we give St Benedict's RC Primary School £2,000 towards fitting out this new unit.
That's our recommendation to the full council.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
we still have to vote on it.
You do.
Yes, we
You do.
So,
I second it. I presume we've got the money before I say all this.
yes. Yeah.
Thank you, we really appreciate that. Thank you very much. We will spend it wisely and then we'll send you some pictures of what we spent.
Yeah, that would be great. If you want to continue to stay, yes, you will.
I feel bad running out now.
No, you
No,
don't.
I'm sure I've got enough to do.
Well, thank you
Got
very
one,
much.
see you.
Yeah. I feel a little bit rude.
We know.
Thank you, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. You're doing a sterling job, so thank you everybody.
So are you.
Yeah, and if it helps any child, just one child. It's a benefit.
We'll send you some pictures. You're very welcome to come and sit in action at any point.
Yeah.
Give us a few weeks to set it up.
You'll give me a job if I come, you'll give me a
Yeah,
job.
I will. I've already got some things in your mind. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
It's a recycling little video.
Um,
To the bottom. Road.
I think there's a lack of special needs schools within Cheshire East.
There's a
I
lot
mean,
of places.
And there are very few special schools. And the more in need your child is, the more lack of spaces there are. You know, you can have up to 11 schools look at a child and not neglect it.
I'm told by an authority that's fairly near me that Cheshire East's financial problems are caused largely by the funding of special educational needs children.
Yeah, but a lot of it is funding for special needs education children outside of Cheshire East.
Yes, of
Because
course.
they don't have the facilities.
Yeah. And it's probably one of the reasons why Cheshire East have just announced they're going to increase council tax by 10%, or as near as damn it. 10%.
But I mean, they built Springfield.
Actually,
It's a
get
request.
People from outside of Cheshire East, children with special needs, and they allow them to come in.
So it's a bit of
Yes,
both
It's
then.
the opposite way.
No,
Yeah.
no, when I spoke to the special needs counsellor at Cheshire East, the woman,
Yeah.
she says, we get a list of possible pupils, and they don't all reside in Cheshire East.
Well, I always say to parents, if you've got a child, move to Stockport because, you
Right.
know,
Well,
I mean, you know, they have got, I mean, Seashell will take a percentage of children, but they're oversubscribed enormously. Springfield was full before it was built and opened.
well,
It's the classic postcode lottery.
anyway,
Postcode lottery.
It is, sorry.
thank you for that. Are there any other recommendation requests for money from any councillor? No, thank you. To receive a copy of the latest bank reconciliation. Are there any comments from it?
No,
No.
made all sense.
Thank you. And I have a proposer, councillor Susan Law, and seconder, councillor Roger Small. All those in favour? Thank you. To review the year-to-date budget summary for 24-25. Unless you've got any pertinent questions regarding the individual items, can we please accept this? Because Ashley, our clerk, does a sterling job maintaining the budget, and as far as I'm aware, he does an excellent job in it. And if anybody wants any money for it to be moved from one title to another in order for us to commit the expenditure, please let Ashley know and we'll discuss it individually. Are there any comments about the budget?
Chair, yes, please. On page 2, under the social support subsection, I noticed that under communications and promotion, there's quite a big
Where are we looking?
Sorry, page number 2, under social support subsection. Item 7200, communications and promotion, an overspend of 43%. I wonder whether the clerk could comment on that.
I did explain to you, Roger, it's our newsletter, and the printing costs were 800 and the distribution cost was £700, so it came to £1,500, which the council authorised.
Okay. And on page, oh gosh, where am I? Page 4. Oh yes, I found on page 4 the summary the fact that the figures presented under summary lacked a heading confused me somewhat, and the fact that there were two sets of figures confused me somewhat. But I have had the figures explained to me by Ashley earlier on this evening. And he tells me that it's not possible to...
No, it's two separate pages and they overlap. But if you overlap them, you can see the headings in line.
Right. That's the only other comment that I had to make, Chair.
Thank you. Any other comment from any of the councillors? Can I have a proposal to accept? Councillor Roger Howard. Seconded, please. Councillor Susan Moore. All those in favour? Okay. And thank you, Clark, for the very good summary of receipts and payments as usual. It's very clear to me, and I think we do well looking after our finances. 25019 to approve the quarterly income and expenditure account for Q3 24-25. I don't know who did the internal control.
Are you happy with the income and expenditure figures?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good proposal, seconder. I know what you want to say, but I've explained it to you. It's about where I put a couple of items, but we only have certain budget lines to put them in.
Yeah.
Next year, I have condensed 3 or 4 budget lines into one open-ended social well-being sort of.
May I just say what my comment was, that it seems strange to allocate defibrillators and to senior citizens and feed control to health and well-being. Senior citizens are not the only ones who suffer from cardiac arrest. Even teenagers can get it. So I would recommend Ashley's intention to combine the two.
Yeah.
Well, what I'd suggest is, if any councillor, having looked at the summary of receipts and payments and the headings, if you want any headings changed, can you email them to Ashley, please? And we will have an updated receipts and payments at the next meeting. Are you happy with that? Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I have a proposal to accept the Q3. Seconder. Councillor Fogarty, all those in favour? Thank you. So the Q3 controls.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Roger.
Roger.
On Monday, the 13th of January, I conducted the internal control audit for Q3. I confirm that, apart from donations to Hope Central, receipts were evidenced for all transactions and that the petty cash balanced. I thank our town clerk for his diligence and accuracy in managing our financial transactions.
We didn't have a receipt for Hope Central.
No, because we give them £90 every month. I don't know if they can give us.
No, because that's on a contract.
Yeah, that's what they're contracted to. Roger gets it, yeah. I don't ask them for a receipt.
No, we don't.
No.
Okay, thank you. And I'll be proposing to accept Q3, please. Councillor Susan Moore, seconder, Councillor Roger Moore, all those in favour? Unanimous. And that concludes our meeting because we've already dealt with some benefit application for a grant. And closure duty is 7 o'clock. Thank you.
I'm going to leave that running because we might go into the next meeting. 7 o'clock.
I'm not available this
Hey.
Once it's next week, you can be in. Next week I can do it. So Wednesday. We'll speak before. Yeah. Listen, I don't mind. I mean, total law, we have power stuff.
There you are.
I should retire.
Councillor Moore?
Yes. Yeah, Tommy, can we speak to Luke?
Yeah,
letting you, quiet. 3 weeks off work, because we were snowed in 2 days last week. That was loading. You have a good Christmas break?
Yeah.
Comes and goes.
Actually, we're pause now, we've got to get time on caffeine.
No.
And then you were snowed in.
Straight in.
Fine.
Go, you're ready, Roger.
How did it go out shopping as well, isn't it? On the-
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this meeting of the Planning and Environment Committee of the Town Council. Agenda item, I should say that should the fire alarm go off, it's not a drill. Persons are requested to exit the building either by the fire doors down there or through the door by which they'd come in, and to assemble on the car park outside. Agenda item 1, to receive apologies for absence.
No.
To note declarations of interest and requests for dispensation, to discuss and vote on a matter in which a member or a co-opted member has a disclosable pecuniary or non-pecuniary interest. Do any councillors want to confess to that kind of thing?
No.
No. Open forum. Comment and questions concerning items on this agenda may be put to the council by the public during this period. Matters in which the chair's view require debate and or a discussion will be referred to the next committee or council meeting as appropriate. The public forum is restricted to 15 minutes unless the chair allows otherwise. Do any members of the public want to speak in the open forum?
Yes, we've come to comment on the plan application for 24-4329 FUL. Introduce the plan for residential garden.
Okay, the floor is yours for 15 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So I did forward on by email some comments to a number of councillors and the clerk as well, which I don't know whether you've seen or not. But essentially, it goes back to the original planning application for a erection of a garden building, so the deck and the garden building, which was subsequently refused, and then the applicant has submitted an appeal as part of that. And as part of the appeal didn't allow comments from the public, but part of the appeal was to also apply for a change of use of land to sort of retrospectively allow that permission. So there are 2 other applications then related to that. There's the one in the FUL and one in the CEULD. Yeah, we call this for the planning activities. So essentially, so we're allowed to comment on some of these things and not others. Concern for us is that the appeal that the applicant submitted with supporting documents from consultants, etc., is full of inaccuracies, essentially lies, and made to give an air of respectability by making a sworn statement and getting a stamp by a solicitor. But we and other neighbours and previous owners of the property recognise straight away that this is fabrications in most cases to give the impression that what they've done was effective. There was a prior use of land that would justify the change of use of land and what it is. So, and also, it feels that the applicant is essentially trying to get things to the back door by misrepresenting the so this planning process is quite complicated, and as people with the opportunity to comment, we find it quite tricky to keep up with, because so far you either don't get a notification from the council or you're not allowed to comment for whatever reason. So it's all tied together. So
it's all linked back to the original application where there were 9 neighbours that have all objected to the original remodelling of the garden, which was inclusive of a steel and concrete structure into ancient woodlands, and that was the basis of the refusal, is because he has built out beyond the curtilage of his land into ancient woodlands, which is impacting both sides, but all the neighbours that have access down, and also Wilmslow fishing looking over, and also the biodiversity across the whole area has been impacted, and it was refused, and he's obviously trying through, I don't know if he's been advised about further applications, and it's really difficult for us to navigate the appeals process, to keep up to date. We have to keep going in to see what's next. We found out, we were notified about one of the applications, but we weren't informed about the other. Handful Town Council have been on the portal saying that you've been notified, but apparently you hadn't.
No, not until about, I think it was last Thursday, it actually finally came through officially to us.
And it just seems like it's a really convoluted process that he's obviously continuing with his appeals process, and we are fearful that it's not being properly reviewed and considered in the right way, if people are being notified. So that's why we're representing a number of neighbours here today, but we're personally impacted, as is the other side, but the whole area and the ancient woodland has been impacted significantly as well.
Yeah, so part of the appeal process is that, well, it's built now, so, forgive us more than punish us. So it feels like it's a way of trying to get, approval retrospectively. The concern is that, we don't recognise that the council or the Cheshire East Council are understaffed in the planning area, and they find a lot of things in tray, and, I think it's probably easy to sort of let things to be accepted, rather than allow it to progress and then consume more resource. So again, so we feel the need to sort of progress with this on our behalf and our neighbours' behalf to avoid things being allowed that shouldn't be allowed.
Another thing to note as well is that the Cheshire East portal has changed, so whereby you would have visibility of the number of neighbours also objecting, we get to see, and we have written substantial objection and comments on what has happened, and also sworn statements, but it's not visible to anyone.
It seems to go to the black holes. I think we did receive confirmation from the Cheshire East staff. Comments but they're not visible, so it seems a bit obscure.
Can I ask a question? A friend of mine who moved since, but he had a house up towards the Gibson house a bit further along, and so I was aware that at some stage in the recent past you were allowed or offered this bit of extra land, weren't you, to extend your gardens?
That would have been prior to us. We've been there for years, so we've been.
So was there ever a caveat, some agreement where it's yours, but you mustn't do this or that?
I don't know.
Do we know that?
I know some neighbours who say, a certain person owns that or has bought that years ago. I don't know. You get back to it, I don't know.
Yeah. You'd think so, wouldn't you? That you can have it, but this is what you'll have to do with it.
Yeah. Yes. Right. I mean, certainly, I think it's. What the extent of that is, I think that's the path that goes down to the woods. And so it's what I understand from talking to our neighbours. Some people purchased the land down to where the if you know that part.
I know well.
Where the fence meets the boundary to the fishing ponds.
Yeah.
And that essentially is where their property boundary would end to that fence, essentially. But essentially that's sort of a public path that has been for many years.
Yeah.
What that means, I don't really know. So, I think some people may own it, some people don't. Yes, so according to neighbours, one of the neighbours, number 30, owns some of that land. I don't have I haven't seen any land registry details, etc. The applicant in some of these submissions claims that the owners bought land in the 1950s, but according to the owners, it's not possible because they didn't move into the 60s.
Yeah, I thought it was in more recent times, but I could be wrong.
Well, I'm sure we'll cover some of these points when we get to that point on the agenda. So can we, for the moment at any rate, move on to agenda item 4, which is to approve and sign the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting of the 10th of December 2024. I cannot comment on this because I was not present. So,
Yes.
Does anybody have any comments about those? No, nothing that they're concerned about. Okay, can I have a proposal then to accept those minutes? Thank you, councillor Thompson, and a seconder, please. Thank you, councillor Parsons. All those in favour? Thank you. Back to you, councillor.
Agenda item 5, to elect a vice chair to the Town Council Planning and Environment Committee. I would like to suggest Councillor Harrison, if he is willing to accept that post. That's my proposal.
I'll happily second that if he's happy to.
All those in favour? Thank you, Luke. Agenda item 6, to consider planning application 24/4788 ADV, erection of fascia signage, BMW and Mini brand logos, and Halliwell Jones dealership lettering on the eastern building frontage, land south of Lower Meadow Road, Handful.
Right?
If
That's why
the-
they've got the new mini place.
If the committee are willing, I'll open discussion on this particular application. This car dealership building is well set back from both Coppice Way and Lower Meadow Road. There are no nearby residential buildings, and according to one of the officers of Cheshire East Council, the level of illumination intended is below the maximum possible for this location. I would therefore recommend to the committee that we offer no objection to this application. However, and I'm not sure that we really should do this, but I'd like to take the opportunity to request tree planting to replace those felled at the western and southern boundaries of the site, and the insertion of a few trees at the eastern boundary of the site would help to reduce its current stark appearance. I know those are not planning considerations relevant to this application, but we have this opportunity to make comment, and it will be read by a planning officer.
I concur with that because having walked through there, I know how many trees were decimated
And
and
they're
cut
not
down.
planted,
Just
not a tree planted.
totally unnecessary, a lot of it. Totally unnecessary. So, and especially in view of the fact that the BMW site didn't bother to respond to our letter, which annoys me. Even if they'd said no, thank you, or whatever, they didn't even bother to respond, and that I find is quite unacceptable. So yes, I think there should be some planting around there.
No, did they provide any CIL or S106
No.
contributions to the
I
area?
know I'm not on the committee, but can I just point out, why do they need it lit up if there's no residential properties or no one to see it lit up? And is it lit up all night?
I was gonna ask.
Pardon?
That's what I was gonna ask actually.
Because no one can drive past it, because it's not on the way to anywhere. So, okay, if they want to light
Well,
it
no,
up.
that's not true.
Not quite true.
That's not true because the main road that comes off the bypass goes into the industrial.
Yes,
estate, has
yeah.
Lots of
parking
passing
stands,
Yeah,
and
I know
road
that, but
is
I mean,
used
when you
a
think
lot.
about it, if they've still got it lit up at midnight, when all Tesco and Marks and Spencer's are all shut and all in darkness, because they are, why should that be allowed to be, you know, I'm just thinking, what's the point of it being lit day and night?
I think the fire lights are on already, all night.
Eh?
The building's lit up all night, already.
Why?
I think to my understanding, we can request that there's a condition imposed that
Yeah.
the lights are off at night, because usually with these like illuminated signage applications, they'll say you can't have them on between, for example,
Yeah.
11 and 5 a.m.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think if that's the
Because the
concern
ones
we have,
down
that could be something that we
the old
recommend.
place out at the Bluebell, their lights weren't on all night. So I don't see, just because it's not a cut through and a pass through, I'm just thinking of the environment really, why do you need
So I
it lit?
can ask that.
That's a fair question, isn't it? So I pass their dog walking regular morning, you know, early and late, and they're always on.
What's the point of having these bits of signage lit if we can't light them at night?
No, say between midnight and 6 a.m.
Yeah.
No, that's a
Yeah.
different matter, yeah.
Restriction on it.
I mean, no one's going to call there, are they, after 7
Apart
o'clock
from
at
that,
night?
say their electric bill.
Well, just don't see why you've got to have it blazed when you're driving down the bypass, and all you can see is BMW flashing from
And given that they border onto the wood, it's a problem for wildlife too.
Yes.
So may I suggest a turn of phrase to offer to the planning department then? The town council do not object to this application, but we would like an assurance that the lit signage be switched off between the hours of 12 and 6. And that we request that tree planting be carried out to replace those felled
I
at the various
put
borders and so
down
on.
that you replace all the trees that you felled, that you replace one with one.
You couldn't. You couldn't do it.
Eh?
None of space. You lost about a quarter of Hall Road
Well,
wood.
they find space somewhere else in Hanford.
Oh, well,
I would
yes.
like to be a bit more specific than that, Wendy, because there were no trees, as I recall, on the eastern border of the site. And they've got great big blocks of granite there, and it
Yeah.
looks very stark.
Yeah,
and
that's
of
because
course,
they don't have to maintain that, do they?
this is a development which is, I believe Luke will correct me if I'm wrong, but this is subject to the 10% increase in biodiversity rules. So we ought to have a few more trees other than those which were.
And if there isn't room on the land, then there's room in
Elsewhere.
Hanford.
Yeah, true.
Well, there's plenty of room on the land.
Yeah.
It's enormous.
Yeah.
I've got the general.
Yeah,
gist
yeah,
of
no,
that.
that's absolutely fine, just need a proposal now.
So
Yeah, but
can
it's the BMW, not the council.
Yeah.
So will you read out what you have down?
Basically, the town council have no objection to the application, however, would recommend a condition that the lighting is not lit between the hours of midnight and 0600, as it is detrimental to the neighbouring ancient woodland. Works and running out around that.
Wildlife.
Yeah, wildlife in the adjacent neighbouring woodland, and request that tree planting take place to replace those felled during construction, and in accordance with the 10% increase in that biodiversity as the site is subjected to.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So I'm going to propose that as.
I'll word it a bit better tomorrow.
Yeah. All those in favour?
Yeah.
Thank you. Now we come to agenda item, whatever it is, 7, which is planning application 24/4339 FUL. I want to start discussion here directed at representatives of local residents by saying it pains me. It really pains me to confess that the councillors here have no more power than yourselves. We make recommendations, as you'll see, to Cheshire East Council. Whether they take notice of that or not is entirely up to them. And I can tell you, I'll give you a good example of that, in that recently we discussed a planning application to put advertisement hoardings on one of the roundabouts at the northern end of the village. We were quite strongly against the adverts being placed there. What happened? Our comments were virtually totally ignored and the adverts have gone up. So we have no more power than local residents in making objections to planning applications.
The original application that went in, we also came alongside some of our neighbours as well. And your recommendation was to strongly recommend, your words as it were, strongly recommend refusal of the original application. And I strongly believe that, coupled with the number of objections to it, definitely helps the case of refusal. Without your strong recommendation, I don't know who was.
The point I would like to make, and again, this pains me, is that we have to consider this planning application in isolation. What does it boil down to? It boils down to the applicant possessing a tract of land within which he simply wants to change the designation from something unspecific to garden. quite honestly, I can't see any reason why we can, or how we can object to that legally.
Garden with the intent of erecting a steel and concrete structure.
But as it stands, I can't see any grounds for this council to object to this specific planning application. That having been said, and I imagine a lot of other councillors around this table are strongly empathic to the points you're trying to make. We are well aware of what this guy is up to. He's trying to sway the decision on the planning application on application 232383M, which is still being considered by the planning inspectorate. And that's the situation. We as a committee have tonight just to consider this planning application in isolation. I can't see any legal reason why we can object to it.
I'm sorry, Councillor.
We shall object, I'll object to it, that's for sure.
On this application, it says here, the erection of a garden outbuilding, and that was what we objected to on the previous application. I'm sorry, nothing's changed as far as I'm concerned, and I would strongly recommend that we don't support this application, and that we say, we refer to the comments that were made on the previous application, and this has been remodelled as a reinvention of that previous application, and that we'd like them to look at that and take note of all the objections that were put in by residents.
Yes, I've drafted something here. The Town Council stands by the majority of its objections to application 232383M and looks forward to learning the outcome of the appeal and the appeal reference number. Councillor Sampson.
Councillor Small, I don't approve of the wording you use by saying you don't hold any hope that this planning application will not go ahead.
No, I didn't say that.
You did. You made out that whatever you said, if you didn't hold much hope of it ever being accepted. That was the opinion you gave. You said.
I said I couldn't see any legal reason why we could refuse this application.
No, you didn't. Prior to that.
If I can just comment on this.
Prior to the meeting, you said you don't hold out much hope. And that's your own opinion. That's not the council's opinion.
Oh, I realise that. I realise
so
that.
As chair of planning,
we're still discussing
I would expect you to make a more appropriate wording in saying, I don't hold out much hope.
Then other members of the committee must chip in and make their views known.
Just a comment on that, because as a parish council, our roles as a statutory consultee, so we don't necessarily have to, we're not bound by planning policy necessarily in the decisions that we make. Our role is to provide sort of a
residents' views.
Yeah, so our sort of advice that we give is what we think would be impactful on our residents and the character of our town on those issues. So we're not necessarily bound by the same planning infrastructure that a lot of other decisions are made on.
I think that's a very important point, because we are here to represent the residents, and the majority of residents don't want this, and it's not up to us who we don't live next door to this guy, nor do our houses back onto it. It's up to us to listen to them and represent their views. And I feel very strongly that, you know, we should back these people, we should back these residents and say, please look what all the things I said before about what we said, and, you know, the new planning portal and why you can't see people's comments. It's ludicrous.
Maybe I'm being a bit thick or naive here. From what I can gather, the original planning permission was put in and was refused. But after that refusal, the building was erected.
No.
Oh, it was. Right, so the building's there, even though planning permission's been refused.
Yes.
So how can we now accept it? It was refused in the first
Exactly the
instance,
same objection.
and nothing else, nothing's changed. The building's still there. Nothing's changed whatsoever. So in my opinion, although I'm not on the planning committee, if you refused it once on the grounds of nothing's changed, then you have to then refuse it again.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't think you can then back away
Yeah.
from it, because the argument will then be, so why should we listen to the council for anything else?
This happens all the time,
Yes.
when people do things and they build something and then they say, oh, I'll just have to need planning permission. Oh, I'll just go through that now.
Yeah,
I find that really abhorrent.
yes,
And what is the point of having a planning
Yes.
application if you don't go through the proper channel?
no,
And for that reason alone,
Yeah.
I would ask Cheshire East that this building is removed.
yes, I would say the same. If you, even if you're applying, if you even build a 3-storey apartment block, if planning permission is refused, it is refused, and that building should not exist.
Yes, absolutely.
Should not exist in any shape or form. And we should support that decision in the fact it was refused. Not only did we refuse it, Cheshire East refused it.
Yeah. And this is, as I said before, it's just the same thing under a different guise.
Yeah, and we should be aware of that. If we weren't aware of it, if it was the wrong house number and it was next door, fair enough, we can look at it anew. But we can't look at it in a new light,
Absolutely not.
because we made the decision.
I looked at the Cheshire East planning portal this morning. I couldn't see any comments from neighbours.
No, and it's really frustrating
Wrong,
because
very
there were
wrong.
9 neighbours that objected to the first one. They were on the original portal. They changed the portal. We've had a number of those neighbours have also objected to the new application, because we all know what it's doing, objected to, and they're not visible. And I've actually written to the case officer today to say, why can we still not see objections that we know have been submitted December the 16th?
Perhaps we should make that comment.
Yeah, that is shocking. Now, did you do it through the portal?
Yes.
Now, do it through the email address I
And the
gave.
email
And you've done it through the
address,
email
and
address as well, and you
email
still haven't done anything about it?
You can't see any comments anymore.
No, and they're not on there now.
No, so we
You can't see it for any property though. If
There's a
someone
case
else
for
has put
complaint.
something
Well,
on
this
it-
is wrong, isn't it?
it's like, it's
They've
absolutely
put a
ridiculous.
comment on to say
That's right.
that the objection portal isn't working at the moment.
Oh, I see.
They're trying to fix it.
For
Right.
how long though? It's been like that for months.
Well,
But if it's
I-
swaying
I've
your
only just
decision,
looked
which you
at
can't see,
Yes.
That people are objecting.
Well, as long as the council is receiving those comments, and that just, you know, not just the on-page response saying, thank you for your comments, but then they disappear, they don't put anyone. That'd be a real concern if that was the case.
Yeah.
It's not great that they're not visible to us and the rest of the property,
Yeah, there.
but if they're going nowhere, then that's, you know, a massive failure.
Right, quick on. I'd forgotten that it is an ancient wood, isn't it?
it is,
And does that give restrictions, I wonder?
yes.
Yes, because it was refused, the actual reason for refusal wasn't because of its size or material, it was based, because it was built on greenland.
Yeah, or ancient wood. Yeah.
And so, you know, back to the point you were discussing, that it was refused before, then why should you suddenly approve it now?
Yeah, yeah.
Because essentially you're saying, well, sorry, I was wrong, you're right, you should
And
bring
it's
that.
the size of a car showroom built of steel and concrete gabings.
So, and the appeal, which we weren't allowed to comment on, is reliant upon this application that we're discussing today as part of the appeal. So we are allowed to comment on this, even though there are other things we can't. And the justifications provided by the applicant in support of this application for change of use is based on, again, on documents submitted by companies or professionals that he has
It's paid for professionals.
has paid for, but also his sworn statement, which is full of lies, blatant lies. And I think he probably thinks that, you know, some of the other routes in the appeal, that neighbours, people wouldn't see them because they're not allowed to comment, but they're very visible. And we contacted the original owner. They were horrified to see some of the things he's claimed to have been the case before he built things. You know, steps here, vegetable patches there.
I see the
total
one there.
nonsense. Yeah.
So it lies, yeah.
Whatever words I may have used earlier on, they have stimulated a nice amount of discussion. I would like to suggest, now that the following turn of phrase for Cheshire East Council. Handforth Town Council recommends refusal of this application by standing by the majority of its objections to application 232383M. I can't say, I don't think we should say all the objections, because we did a
I think we should just keep it the same.
land registry
Keep it the
search.
same. Keep it the same.
Yeah.
Keep it the same. Simplest thing.
Yeah.
Just
Simplest thing in the world. I take it.
its objections.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not bound by planning policy.
Can we make a comment about not being able to see the comments?
Oh, I'll take that over, Peter, because I do not understand why they're not coming. They should show up. They should show up. Yeah.
We've written a 14-page document that's not visible.
I-
It's frustrating.
So,
If you want to give that document to us, we can.
I think, certainly, the clerk and some others in the committee have received that from me, an email,
Yeah.
early in mid-December. Yes, so I detailed all the related planning applications and appeal documents as well. And I submitted my comments on those.
yeah.
Case officer at
We had a land registry search done as well to try and figure out who owns what land associated with 52 Woodlands Road. So my proposal is that we recommend to Cheshire East Council, the Town Council recommends refusal of this application, standing by its objections to application 232383M. I propose that's how we report to Cheshire East Council. Do I have a seconder? And all those in favour? It caused me an awful lot of sleep agonising over that application, I'll tell you. As I'm sure you have, yes. Agenda item 8, and I want to pass the poison chalice to Councillor Harrison here for an update on the 2024 National Planning Policy Framework and any practical implications for this committee from that update. Luke, over to you.
I'll keep it brief. So, if you're not aware, the National Planning Policy Framework is basically the document the government makes that shapes how local plans are made and how, in absence of local policy, national decisions made from other policy perspectives. So, in terms of the emerging local plans, so the Cheshire East has an emerging local plan currently. The method of making a local plan is to change, and because of the stage that Cheshire East is currently at, it means it will affect the Cheshire East local plan and will likely be pushed to the new plan making process by March 2025, I believe. The mandatory housing targets have changed, so Cheshire East currently in the plan has an annual housing target of 977. That is to increase by the new standard method to 2,461, which is an increase of about 150%. Quite significant. But I should probably comment that Cheshire East has been building roughly that amount over the past at least 3 years. The council, we expect to undertake a new green belt review. That's effectively to sort of understand how the new grey belt, which we'll get onto, which sites can be allocated as part of the grey belt. And councils are required to set affordable housing rates for development on the green belt, which again I'll get back to. Change to the green belt. The definition has been slightly changed. I've attached a copy of the MPF for that. The grey belt has been introduced, which is effectively a definition. Not quite word for word, but it's land that they don't determine as being of certain uses to the green belt, and also previous developed land for brownfield sites within green belt. They'll allow major housing development on the green belt if it's subject to certain golden rules. So that means either a new set affordable housing rate or 50% subject to viability. It also has a few others, so it has to be in a sustainable location, it has to provide certain infrastructure benefits, and renewable energy schemes also have a few more benefits that they can claim to provide in order to be allowed on the green belt. There's monitoring stuff. The developers of house building projects will have to notify the council before they start a major house building project. They'll also have to persistently report back to the council, which in the future may mean that they can be refused planning permission on the grounds that they haven't built out at the rate they said they would. Some more things to look out for: devolution white paper, introduce strategic plans, or should they be introduced? That means that we might be, or will likely be, asked to, I'll say it was, Cheshire East Council will be asked to cooperate with neighbouring councils, probably Cheshire West, possibly Halton and Warrington, to make a new strategic plan. So that'll just be one that covers, in addition to the local plan, covers the area. In terms of Cheshire Council again, there might be changes to the way planning committees work, which means that it might be harder to get a planning decision to be made by committee. And if it is, they could introduce new strategic committees of what they call more senior members. So they would make those decisions instead. There might be some changes to the way that developers are asked to pay for infrastructure projects, so that links into the strategic plans, so they'll be paid for on a larger scale. And that's good as well. So also for like certain energy projects like power lines, they're thinking about introducing new ways for communities to benefit from that. For example, adding like new sort of like civil cost per like mile. So, any questions?
Well, thank you for that summary, Councillor Harrison. I'd like to make one or two comments based on what you provided for us. The coming of grey belt land. Handforth is threatened in probably two areas that I can think of. Grey belt land would almost certainly include the Knowle House site at the end of, which road is it? Seagarth Road. And it concerns me a little bit that this grey belt land might include a bit of our green belt, which is close to the Greater Manchester border, because I have the feeling that some of that land formerly formed part of RAF camps during the Second World War. Yeah. And if that's the case, then that might also come under the designation of grey belt land. The pressure to build yet more houses, of course, that's going to go on and on, isn't it? And where do we, if Handforth is put upon to provide more houses, where should that go? Well, we've got safeguarded land to the southeast of the Garden Village site. Beautiful land, unfortunately, but that it's safeguarded for building, so that might have to go in the next local plan, I guess. But I believe we should strive to protect the green belt land that separates us from Greater Manchester, and there are several tracts of such land. I was a little bit concerned about the expectation that there will be changes to the way that developers pay for infrastructure contributions for larger developments. And these could rely on cross-authority cooperation. I find myself wondering, what does this mean for S106 payments and SIL payments? I guess that's not yet evident from...
yeah, that's still a bit of an issue area, I think.
That's still a bit of a...
It'll be dependent on the new strategic plans.
Right.
They'll be able to allocate that. So as of yet, while we don't have one, it shouldn't affect us.
because Hanforth, of course, is hoping desperately to get a large tranche of silver money out of the Garden Village development.
Well, one assumes it will be retrospective on those that have already been ruled on.
We hope. Thank you again, Councillor Harrison, for that, your presentation. Anybody else have comments? Then, in which case, I'll declare the meeting closed at 20 to 8.
We just have 5 minutes or so.
Yes,
Yes,
5 minutes, and the meeting will start at 7:45.